Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om. Allah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Beow Lim. Beow is a member of the Baha'i Faith. Thanks for coming in, Beow.
Thank you.
And as we always do with our two set programs, the first program is to determine your spiritual heritage. So Baha'i, you haven't always been a Baha'i, I believe.
No.
So what did you start as?
Well, when I was young, my mother, I suppose, is a Buddhist, follow Taoist, pray, go temple, Chinese temples, and, jaw stick, pray to the ancestors, for good health, good wealth, and the usual Chinese traditional Buddhist beliefs. So that's what I followed. I went to the temple, and then, you pray, whatever it means, praying itself. But also because I live in Malaysia, whereby the national religion is Muslim. So while I have temples, Chinese temples, I also have, around me, mosques and things like that.
Yes.
5 o'clock in the morning, you're Allah Akbar, and all very familiar with it. And also I've got, Malaysia is also a multicultural country. So I've also got Indian friends. Right? Indian friends, and you would go to temple. There are Indian temples where they would slaughter goats and everything else, so we would just see what was happening. So all this was happening around me. And also because I went to a Christian brother school. Actually, my school is St. John's Institution. So the Christian brothers came over to Malaysia, 70, 100 years ago, and they started, the Christian missionary, they started the school, so I went to a Christian school. So, on Fridays or so, those who wanted to could go to church or mass or whatever else. So I'm familiar, so I've got Taoist, a bit of, Hinduism that I'm familiar with because my friends are there. I've got Islam, which is all around me, and I'm Christian brother school. So you've got everything.
Yes. And how did that affect you? What was your awareness? You were 7, 8 at this time, were you? Up until
well, 7, 8, follow mom and dad, and then you go to school, 12, 13, 14 or so, you start to notice all of these things, and it was just wonderful. Malaysia is a wonderful place. We have got, very harmonious sort of religious tolerance for each other, although the national language is Muslim. Our Muslim friends would go to, like on Friday or so, the school would stop or start later, so that the friends would go and pray. Our Muslim friends, and those who were not would do whatever they were doing normally. So they get a free period, 1 or 2 periods. So I've had all of those influence as to how I came to sort of, I suppose, this religious awareness, just minding my business all the time. Then one day it sort of dawned onto me that what is all of this about? Especially when you have all of these incidents.
Yes.
Now, before this religious incident happened to me, I actually had one incident that sort of sparked the whole process. Can I tell you about it?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
See, what happens is I have always been a scouting movement. I was climbing mountains, hills, and everything. So to cut a long story short, I was so competent that I was actually climbing, I was a scout, I was a patrol leader, and then whatever else it is. So at about 15 or so, I was so competent at climbing this particular limestone hill, which was at one stage very vertical, almost about 30 meters or so. And then it goes 600 meters, but for 130 meter stretch, it was vertical. I've already done it for about 13 times. So after our exams, me and my friend, we climbed up. And just because we have done it 12 times, we said, the 13th time, we're going to wait until at night. Just for the challenge.
Just to make
You know
it
me,
hard.
the adventurous one. We said we're going to just wait until at night. So we went to this mining pool, which is a limestone area, vertical cliff that goes and but one part of it was vertical for about 30 meters or so. So we waited, sat there and waited until at night. My friend said, time to go. I said, no, let's wait until at night. So we waited until at night, and then this was us 2 scouts, and then we would climb with torchlight on teeth and everything, right? So, and then we climb up these steps.
Yes.
Right? And then we went up to the top. Stayed up right at the very top. Next morning, we came down. Okay? When we was coming down, again, to make a long story short, instead of one step coming down, like from this chair, it was maybe about 1.5 meters or maybe half a meter. Instead of coming down, I jumped to one spot and I lost my balance. I leaned forward and I fell.
Oh, good heavens.
I fell straight down vertical, hitting some of the trees for about 25 meters.
Good heavens.
And I landed, right? My friend in hysteria came down, Eventually, it took almost about an 18-hour exercise. We won't go into that. Took me to the hospital.
Yes.
Right? Okay. I was in the hospital, semi-conscious for 2 weeks. 1 week later, the 3rd week, I was somewhat conscious. And then I regained conscious. In the meantime, my mom and dad was saying, what's happening? Because the X-ray showed that I had such a big impact. I broke my arm here. Okay, has such a big impact that my cranium is here, my skull, my brain actually shift, and because of that, it's like I was vegetables, So anyway, it doesn't matter. When I woke up, I remember my friends came and told me, "Oh yeah, Beow, you're so lucky." I think, that you are still alive. I say, "What do you mean lucky? I fell down. That's unlucky, man. When you tell me it's lucky." Okay, fine, doesn't matter. So that went on when I was probably about 15, 16 years old or so. Okay,
Yes.
After that 2 or 3 years, I never went anywhere.
Yes.
Because it was a big commotion. I never went. I was almost a scout leader. I was arranging things for everybody, but I didn't go anywhere. Then the next one after that, on the 3rd year, I went for a hike again.
Yes.
Okay, and to cut a long story short, we were on a ridge, high ridge, walking on top.
I'll tell you what, we'll cut that long story short because we're out of time for the moment. We'll be back in a moment with more of our story. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Beow Lim. He's a member of the Baha'i Faith. When we went to the break, you were just coming along a ridge, I believe.
Right, okay. So I fell down, unconscious for 3 weeks or so, semi-conscious for 3 weeks, and then I never did any other scouting. I was the scout leader. I was arranging activities for people to go everywhere in my group in St. John's institutions, but I never went anywhere, because I was just causing too much agony for my mom, anxious and things.
Yes.
So then after that, on the 3rd year, when I was about 18 years old or so, I said, okay, I will go. I will go for one activity. And on this activity, so when I went, what happens is there was about 24 of us, okay? We were just following, and I was just anchor. I was the last, okay? We stopped for lunch. This ridge down here, because you're walking on the top of limestone ridge. On this side, you fall down, and this side, so we will have to be careful.
Yes.
Lunchtime, we had stopped for lunch. Then after lunch, the group went on. After about 10 minutes later, there was a shout. So we went to think what happens is one of the boy was walking right in front of me, the last boy, a scout. He fell. Okay?
Right.
He fell a distance of maybe about 3 meters. Okay? He knocked his head. We came down to wherever he was, and we brought him down to the side of the hill.
Yes.
That exercise may have taken 6 hours or so, but when we tried to revive him, cardiac respiration, he passed away.
He was gone.
He passed away. So what happens was, fine, we took him there, and the next day the school explained that, oh, this person passed away, so they took the whole scout group, for his funeral. Okay, fine. And I remember this. You talk about religious experience, okay? Here I was, I walked, because we got to pay our last respect. Not we had to, we wanted to, because we went. So this is this boy who I was just following. He was the last, because a bit clumsy, you know. He was walking, and I was walking the last. I was just, okay, following him, and he fell. So anyway, I said, pay my last respect, like all the time we do. And I remember walking in, and then looking at him, and won't mention the name. I looked at him in the casket, and I said, this thing happened in my head. How come he fell 3 meters and he passed away, and I fell 25 meters and I still live? From that very second, something in my head clicked. I don't know whether it just clicked or unclicked. So I started asking questions. And I said, like, what is this all about? You know, what is this all about? So I remember now, at that time I was 18. Okay, 18, and I was doing my HSC in Kuala Lumpur. I remember that day, I said, not that day, from then onwards, I should sit in class, and I remember I still remember that physics lesson. You know, physics lesson, whatever else it is, you know, geometry, whatever they were teaching, I was saying, how is that relevant to me? How is it? Oh, then, like, why must I know this? Well, logical question. If you know this, because you become smarter. I say, why you must be smarter? I ask everyone, smarter because then you get a good job. You know? Okay, why you want to get a good job? You know? So you get a lot of money. Yeah? I was asking myself, and I was asking everyone else. So you know, all my friends are pestering everybody else. Yeah? Why you want to get a job? Get a lot of money. Why you want to get a lot of money? So I can be happy. Yeah, logical. Yeah. Why do you want to be happy? So that so you know, you keep on pursuing that question. You know, why do you want to become? So that I can provide for my children next time. Why do you want to provide for my children? You keep on pursuing that question, and if we had time, we would do that. And it won't take long. No, it won't take more than 15 minutes. You realize that every answer will come up with, it's good or bad. Certainly. Then I ask myself the question. I mean, this process almost took about 8 months, okay? What is good or bad? You know, did you know, Plato say what is good or bad? Did Aristotle say what is bad? You will see all the good and bad is always, who says what is good or bad? It's always the religions. The religions is the one that determines what is good or bad. So that goes my quest. Okay, let's go and investigate which religion is the good and the bad. Okay, so here I was going into the Buddhists and asking them, you know, what is, I would go into the temples, you know, I would go into the temples while they were knocking, and I would find out, what are they up to? And I would ask my friends, you know, what are you? And like, you know, what do you believe? They'll say Buddhist. Then I'll say, oh, why do you believe? How come it is? And what is it? Exactly what you're asking me right now, you know? Like, and then the last question I said, what do you all do? And can I come and observe? You know, and they will, of course, you know, they would come. So I've been to Buddhist temples, I've been to mosques, walked through the mosques, I've been to, like I said, you know, Indian temples, slaughtering cows, I've been to Jehovah's Witnesses. Literally everybody I've met, you know, the standard question, because when you have nothing else better to do, I'll say, hey, can you tell me what do you believe in? You know, they would tell you, you know, and I say, why do you believe in it? And they will say, and they say, can I come and look? So you did. So, you know, there was someone who was a Baha'i there as well. Just happened to be in my class, because I've never heard of the Baha'is, you know, like I said, Christian, Buddhist, you know, I've heard of. And then this is a Baha'is, I don't know what it is. So same thing, I said, can I come and have a look? And like, well, what do you all do? So she invited me to go, and I investigated the teachings of Baha'u'llah. You know, so that's how it got me into this idea of there is many different religions. And the Baha'i Faith, for example, to me, as I understand it from my own spiritual growth, is that it believes that all the rest of the prophets are actually from one God. There is one God and all the prophets. And to me, it made sense, only to me, because it came at different times. No two prophets came at the same time. So as humanity go through with 1,000, you know, Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, Muhammad, 1,500 years ago, and Krishna and Buddha and all of those, they were in succession.
Yeah.
It's only humanity that sees it that they are opposition.
Yeah.
So it's as if like, I always say, you go sender 1, sender 2, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. You don't say that, which is better.
No, that's right. And we're on the subject of time, and that's excellent because we're out of it for the moment. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Beow Lim. He's a member of the Baha'i Faith. And Beow, you're going through this evolution, an exciting evolution, into the point where you are now looking at the Baha'i Faith.
Right.
And you say that, okay, it's a string of prophets, not just separate prophets looking at one another, but individual prophets looking at the one source. Where did it go from there?
Well, so what happens is I've explained to you that, I came from a sort of an environment that has got Christianity. I was in a Christian school. My mom is a Buddhist. And then I got Indian friends. I live in a Islam country. So all of them I saw was relevant and good. All of them taught different things. We were tolerant. We were harmonious in Malaysia. So we were good. So now, when I ask the question, the mental question, like, well, why do you become something? And they had their own answers. So I have to, find out, well, what is it? Is it true? So I looked and read as much of the Bible as I could because I was invited to them, and they would talk. Christian friends would talk about Bibles and Isaiahs and Jeremiahs, and I didn't know what they were talking about. So I had to pretend to be intelligent, but they're going to read up a little bit of that, And then I would read the Quran because it says this and that. Whether you can do this, you cannot do that, and things like that. And then the Bhagavad Gita, and the sort of the Buddhist text was a little bit ancient, difficult to get hold of, but I tried to find out about what was happening as well. And Christianity was part of and parcel of what I was sort of brought up in, the morality of it, because I was in the school, right? So, and then this idea of this Baha'i, so because they were all disconnected, like, I have to be a Christian, I have tremendous trouble with that, because I was like, why? What is all about? I mean, this is just 18 years old, and I've never been always comfortable with the religion. And then I really have to question, well, what is it that they are talking about? What is religion about? Because everyone wants to talk about, eventually you ask what they do. They want to be happy. They want to be, good. They want to be, so what is good about? So I read as much as possible, and I still struggle with the fact that one was right. One is right and one is wrong.
Yeah.
Of course, I never saw in the Bible that says that they was right. It's just that when you go to the Christians group and they say that they are the only one, and so there's this disparity which I found out very quickly. The Bible was wonderful, but the people saying it is even within the Christian itself, and I'm not being whatever. Sometimes the Christian, my group is better than your group. My church is better. I mean, it just didn't gel with me. For me, anyway, I don't know. So I struggle with that. But then when I came across the Baha'i Faith, and the Baha'i Faith say, all the prophets are in fact the same source from God, right? And I examined that. Says, well, each of them came to do two things. Each of the prophet, Baha'u'llah said, each of them came to do two things. Each of the prophet came to teach a spiritual teaching and a social teaching. The spiritual teaching, Baha'u'llah says, is consistent, right, true. That means don't kill, don't steal, be nice to each other, try and live in unity. I examined all of that. You know what? Hallelujah. They are all true. Right? They are all true. Now, he says, Baha'u'llah said, for example, teaches that, each of the prophets came also to teach a social teaching, which is different. Like, what a social teaching. You can marry 2 times. You can have, bread. You can have wine. You can have, you cannot have pork. You know, and those social teaching. Now, those social teaching changes because Baha'u'llah, because of the circumstances of that country and those, you know, maybe it was disease or whatever else that was appropriate towards then.
Yes.
Right? So, okay, I looked at it, well, that makes sense as well. To me, anyway, that makes sense as well. Right. Baha'u'llah now says, for example, that, like, let me just give one example of this teaching itself. Baha'u'llah, for example, Baha'u'llah is the founder of Baha'i Faith, teaches, for example, my own conceptual small understanding of the Baha'i Faith. For example, during the very, very early development of the individual is the Hinduism or Buddhism, whereby when you talk about Hinduism and Buddhism, what do we conjure up in our head? Monks and priests.
Yes.
And where are they? In their caves. And when you are in the caves, what are you developing? What are you developing? You're developing your individuality.
Yes.
You're developing your own psychological dynamics.
Yes.
So you are making that individual.
Yeah.
I'm a psychologist, so you know that's the individual development. Right? Now, when Jesus Christ came, for example, when you look at the writings of Jesus Christ, this is my analysis, okay? Not the Baha'i analysis. What do they talk about? What do they call their priests? What do they call their priests? Fathers and brothers. So you can see, from my understanding, he brought about that unity not only in an individual, but then now it's in a family.
Yeah.
He developed the family unit, right? And then when Muhammad came, for example, what is the Muhammad's, for example, what did Muhammad bring about? He brought about not only the families, but the society.
Yeah,
so you can see, for example, from an individual to a family, to society, to nation, and then to nationhood. Okay, now Baha'u'llah say, for example, the earth is but one country and mankind is citizen. So we need to grow to the next stage.
To the next
What is the
stage,
next stage? The next stage is that we are one country. Humanity is one. Now we can say that right now because we just have to, we understand that. But Baha'u'llah said this about 180 years ago. No, 170 years ago, you know, the faith was founded in 1844. When people don't have internet, they don't talk to each other across the other side of the world. But this is where humanity needs to go to the next stage. Right? So that, to me, made a lot of sense.
Yes.
So I investigated it, and there are many, many teachings in the faith that sort of, for me anyway, sort of psychologically, spiritually, made tremendous sense for me.
Yes.
Right? So the faith has been, in fact, teaching me, and is still teaching me. And I think even after being a Baha'i for 30 years or so, I think I've only learned maybe 1% of the Baha'i Faith. The Baha'i Faith is so vast.
But you've learned a massive amount about the spiritual development of mankind. That's a fascinating insight, Beow. And we're out of time, but very much like to interview you again. Would you be back next week and we can talk about what it means for you to be a member of the Baha'i Faith?
Sure, whenever it's convenient for you.
Good on you. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with a further interview with Beow. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu